In 1954, Warner Brothers unleashed something no one had ever seen before: giant radioactive ants crawling out of the desert to terrorize America. Them wasn't just another monster flick. It was the very first big bug movie, and it set the tone for a whole decade of atomic age nightmares. But here's the twist: the ants don't even show up until half an hour in. The film was almost shot in color and 3D. A young Leonard Nimoy shows up in a blink and you miss it cameo. And John Wayne himself got involved, in a way that changed TV history. This are 16 weird facts about Them, the movie that should have bombed, but instead became one of the most influential monster films of all time. Number 1. The ants took their sweet time. You'd think a movie about giant killer ants would show them right away, right? Nope. Them holds back the reveal for nearly 30 minutes. For the first half hour, the film plays like a straight murder mystery. Desert patrols stumble across wrecked homes, missing people, and one traumatized little girl who can barely speak. The audience is left in the dark, piecing together clues just like the characters, with only eerie sounds and strange footprints hinting at what's coming. This slow burn was unusual for the time. Most creature features of the 1950s splashed the monster across the screen early to grab kids in the theater seats, but Them leaned into suspense. By delaying the reveal, the eventual appearance of those enormous ants hit twice as hard. When they finally march out of the desert, it's not just a monster attack, it's the payoff to a carefully built mystery. By the time audiences finally saw the ants, they were hooked. Number 2. Ants in 3D? Believe it or not, Them was almost one of the flashiest movies of the 1950s. The original plan was to shoot it in full color and 3D, the big Hollywood gimmicks of the time. Warner Brothers even ran early tests: massive ants leaping out of the screen, flamethrowers blasting right into your face, and bright desert landscapes bursting with color. But there was a problem. The special 3D cameras kept breaking down, and the color footage looked flat and muddy. Instead of risking a disaster, the studio pulled the plug and went back to standard black and white. Yet a few traces of that 3D dream survived. Certain scenes, like the opening credits and the flamethrower blast, were shot with the coming-at-you angle designed for stereoscopic projection. Even the ants busting through walls were staged to jump right at the lens. Today, those shots feel oddly dramatic in a movie that otherwise plays it straight. Little reminders of the wild version that never made it to the screen. In the end, the ants didn't need 3D glasses to be terrifying. Number 3. A red and blue warning. Even though Them was stripped of its fancy 3D and color plans, the filmmakers still wanted something eye-catching. Their solution? The opening title card. Against a stark black and white background, the word Them explodes in vivid red and blue. In the 1950s, this was a shocking effect, a jolt of color spliced right into a monochrome world. It instantly told audiences this wasn't just another desert thriller, something monstrous was coming. The effect was so striking that many who saw the film on its first run never forgot it. Imagine sitting in a dark theater in 1954, the curtains pulling back, and suddenly those huge, colorful letters flashing across the screen. It felt almost radioactive, like the title itself had been blasted by the same atomic power that created the ants. Later, VHS and DVD releases preserved the effect, making sure the film's unique introduction survived across decades. It was a warning in bold colors. Danger was coming. Number 4. Real weapons, real veterans. Most monster movies rely on props and stage tricks, but Them went a step further. When the script called for soldiers with flamethrowers, the production didn't settle for fakes. They used real World War II flamethrowers, heavy, dangerous weapons on loan from the US Army. And to make sure things looked authentic, the men wielding them weren't just actors. They were actual World War II combat veterans, hired specifically because they knew how to handle the gear. It added a raw edge of realism to the film. These weren't stunt performers waving around plastic props. They were men who had seen battle, now pointing fire at giant mechanical ants. In a movie filled with puppets and sound effects, this choice gave the action sequences a surprising amount of grit. The flames shooting straight at the camera didn't just look dramatic, they were real, and audiences could feel the danger. In Them, the firepower was no illusion. Number 5. Behind the bug eyes. The true stars of Them weren't the actors, they were the ants. But these weren't just rubber costumes or miniatures. The production built 2 enormous full-scale ant puppets, each a mechanical nightmare of gears, levers, and pulleys. One of them weighed nearly 12 tons and required a small army of technicians to operate. Painted a purplish-green hue with glowing red and blue eyes, the creatures looked terrifying under the harsh desert lighting. To make the ants come alive, teams of operators controlled every twitch, the mandibles snapping, the antennae quivering, the heads turning just enough to seem menacing. A second partial ant body was mounted on a massive crane for close-up shots, giving the impression of a monster looming directly over the cast. It was clunky, loud, and incredibly hard to manage, but on screen it worked. For audiences in 1954, these lumbering giants were unlike anything they'd ever seen. The ants weren't real, but the fear they created definitely was. Number 6. Nature's voice of terror. One of the most unsettling parts of them isn't what you see, it's what you hear. The ants don't just scuttle and roar like movie monsters usually do. Instead, they produce a high-pitched, eerie screech that makes your skin crawl long before the creatures even appear on screen. That sound became the film's secret weapon for building tension in the early scenes. But here's the twist. Those noises weren't invented in a lab. The sound designers mixed together the calls of tree frogs, hooded warblers, wood thrushes, and even a red-bellied woodpecker. Blended and distorted, they created something both natural and alien, a sound that felt alive but impossible to place. It was so effective that the same recordings popped up in other films for years after, becoming a hidden piece of Hollywood's monster soundscape. The ants didn't roar, they screamed, and audiences never forgot it. Number 7. Hollywood royalty in the desert. Them didn't just have giant ants, it had an all-star cast hiding in plain sight. Edmund Gwenn, the same actor who melted hearts as Santa Claus in Miracle on 34th Street, showed up as the wise old scientist. But this wasn't a passion project for him. Behind the scenes, insiders joked he only took the role to pay for his arthritis treatments, and you can spot moments where he's clearly in pain between takes. And then there was Leonard Nimoy. Long before he became Mr. Spock, Nimoy had a blink and you'll miss it cameo as a young army sergeant. It's almost surreal. One of the most iconic sci-fi actors of all time, tucked away in a monster movie about ants. The casting doesn't stop there. James Arness, who played the FBI agent, had already terrified audiences as the alien in The Thing from Another World just a few years earlier. Looking back, Them feels like a bizarre meeting ground of Hollywood legends. Some on the rise, some paying the bills, all fighting bugs. Pretty wild so far, right? We've seen how Them held back its monsters, nearly became a 3D spectacle, and even brought in an Oscar-winning Santa Claus alongside a young Leonard Nimoy. And we're only halfway through the nest of secrets this movie is hiding. If you're digging these forgotten Hollywood stories, don't forget to like and subscribe. It keeps these deep dives alive. Now, let's get back to the ants. Number 8. John Wayne's big recommendation. Sometimes, the impact of a movie reaches far beyond the screen. After Them hit theaters, one of its biggest fans turned out to be none other than John Wayne. The Duke himself went to see the film and was blown away by James Arness's performance as the tough FBI agent Robert Graham. Wayne was so impressed that he personally recommended Arness for the role of Marshal Matt Dillon in the new TV western Gunsmoke. That casting decision would define Arness's career, as he went on to star in the series for 20 years, becoming one of television's most iconic cowboys. In a strange twist, giant ants had indirectly helped launch one of the longest-running shows in TV history. So, while Them terrified audiences, it also made James Arness a household name. Number 9. Filming in a furnace. The desert scenes in Them might look simple on screen, but they were absolute torture to film. Cast and crew were sent out to the Mojave Desert, where temperatures soared past 110 degrees Fahrenheit. Now, imagine trying to deliver your lines under that scorching sun while dressed head to toe in heavy clothing that trapped every ounce of heat. Actress Joan Weldon later revealed that both she and Edmund Gwenn were forced to wear wool outfits during the shoot. Wool in triple-digit desert heat. Gwenn, already struggling with advanced arthritis, needed help just to get off the set between takes. Yet, despite the pain and exhaustion, he delivered a performance that gave the film its heart and authority. It's a reminder that the magic of movies often comes at a brutal cost behind the scenes. For the cast of Them, the real monster wasn't the ants, it was the heat. Number 10. The Atomic Age Warning. Like so many science fiction films of the 1950s, Them didn't just end with a bang, it ended with a warning. After the ants are finally destroyed in the sewers, Dr. Medford delivers a chilling line.
When man entered the atomic age, he opened a door into a new world. What we'll eventually find in that new world, nobody can predict.
It was a reminder that the movie wasn't only about oversized insects, it was about nuclear anxiety, a fear that science had unleashed forces too big to control. This moral punch was typical of the era, echoing through films like The Day the Earth Stood Still and Godzilla. In Them, the ants became a metaphor for what happens when humanity tampers with nature on an atomic scale. The real monster wasn't the bugs, it was the bomb. Number 11. The Hidden Mistake. For all the care that went into building the giant ants, not every shot went according to plan. In the original 1954 theatrical release, eagle-eyed viewers could occasionally spot something they weren't supposed to see: the inner workings of the ants. Panels would slip, or angles would betray the illusion, exposing gears, levers, and raw mechanics right there on the screen. It was the kind of mistake that could shatter the magic of the movie, turning a terrifying monster into an obvious machine. Later home video releases quietly corrected these slip-ups, trimming, or cleaning the shots so that audiences wouldn't notice the puppet's guts spilling out. But for those who saw the first prints, it was a reminder of just how ambitious and fragile the practical effects really were. Even monsters have seams, and in them, a few of them showed. Number 12. The ending that never was. The climax of Them looks unforgettable today. Soldiers storming into the sewers of Los Angeles to wipe out the final colony of giant ants. But that wasn't the original plan. Screenwriter George Yates first imagined the ending taking place in the subways of New York City, a perfect symbol of ants invading the beating heart of civilization. Later, another rewrite shifted the finale to a Santa Monica amusement park, where roller coasters and carnival rides would frame the battle. Both of those ideas would have been spectacular, but they were also expensive. Warner Brothers wasn't about to spend that kind of money on a bug movie, so budget cuts forced the filmmakers to rethink everything. The solution? Move the action underground into the storm drains of Los Angeles. It was cheaper, logistically simpler, and still gave the finale a claustrophobic, creepy edge. Ironically, the sewers gave Them one of its most atmospheric sequences. Sometimes limitations don't kill creativity, they sharpen it. Number 13. Poster lies. If you saw the posters for Them back in 1954, you'd think the ants looked more like aliens than insects. The marketing showed monstrous bugs with cat-like human-style eyes glaring out at the audience, a design choice that had little to do with the actual creatures in the movie. Nobody really knows why the studio pushed this bizarre look, but one thing's clear: it grabbed attention. For kids passing theater lobbies or drive-in marquees, those glowing human-like eyes were impossible to ignore. They suggested something stranger, scarier, and even more grotesque than what the film actually delivered. In a way, the misleading artwork worked in the movie's favor. By the time audiences sat down, the tension was already sky high, and the film didn't have to work as hard to sell its terror. The posters lied, but they sold tickets. Number 14. Studio doubts, big payoff. When Them was in production, Warner Brothers didn't expect much. Studio head Jack Warner reportedly predicted the movie would flop. After all, who would pay to watch a film about giant ants? At best, they thought it would be another cheap matinee filler to cash in on kids looking for thrills. The film was made on a modest budget, and the marketing push was limited compared to the studio's more prestigious titles. But when Them hit theaters in June 1954, it shocked everyone. Instead of fading away, it pulled in more than $2.2 million worldwide, becoming Warner Brothers' highest-grossing film of the year. What was meant to be a quirky little monster movie turned into a bona fide hit, beating out far more serious productions. Even critics were impressed, calling it one of the best science fiction thrillers of its time. The ants Warner Brothers thought would bomb ended up crawling straight to the bank. Number 15. The Oscar snub. For a film that the studio barely believed in, Them ended up walking into awards season with serious recognition. In 1955, it was nominated for an Academy Award for Best Special Effects, an incredible honor for a giant bug movie. The practical ants, the flamethrower battles, and the eerie desert sequences had impressed not just audiences, but also the industry itself. But the ants didn't take home the gold. That year, the Oscar went to Disney's lavish 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, a film with a much bigger budget and a far grander reputation. Still, the nomination proved something important. Science fiction, once dismissed as kiddie fare, could be taken seriously. And Them had cracked the door open for the genre to step into Hollywood's spotlight. The ants may have lost the statue, but they won respect. Number 16. Pop culture legacy. For a movie about oversized ants, Them left giant footprints across pop culture. Its influence rippled through decades of monster cinema, inspiring films like Tarantula, The Black Scorpion, and The Deadly Mantis. It also carried an audio Easter egg that would become legendary, the Wilhelm scream, a stock sound effect used in Them, that went on to appear in Star Wars, Indiana Jones, and countless blockbusters. Even video games paid tribute. In Fallout 3, a side quest called Those features giant mutated ants in a clear nod to the 1954 classic. From Saturday matinee creature features to modern sci-fi, the DNA of Them is everywhere. Its mix of Cold War anxiety, practical monster magic, and old-school suspense became a template that others would copy, but never quite surpass. The ants may be gone, but their echoes still crawl through our culture. Looking back, Them wasn't just another monster movie. It was the blueprint. From its delayed reveal of the creatures to its mix of war weapons, oversized props, and star-studded cameos, the film proved that science fiction could thrill audiences and earn respect at the same time. What started as a low-budget gamble became Warner Brothers' biggest hit of 1954 and a cornerstone of atomic age cinema. Its legacy still crawls across the screen today, whether in the sound of a Wilhelm scream, the influence on later bug-eyed monsters, or even a cheeky reference in a post-apocalyptic video game. Them showed that fear of the unknown could be packaged into pure entertainment, and that sometimes the scariest monsters are born from the anxieties of real life. So, which fact about them surprised you the most? The real flamethrowers, John Wayne's unexpected role, or the ants that almost took over New York? Let me know in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe for more hidden stories from Hollywood's strangest corners.